Hello, my friends. D.L. Anderson here. Welcome back to Transformation by Truth podcast as we share the truth concerning these last days and what you must do to save yourself from the violent times that are just ahead. Today's podcast is a word of truth accounting of the end times. The end is coming. The end is near. Today's podcast is entitled End Times 338, an Intro to Faith, Part 3, The 3 Degrees of Faith. The podcast objectives are analyze the 3 degrees of faith, reveal the main event of your war with doubt, and analyze the most common crossroad in the life of every believer. This lesson contains timelines and other visuals. Therefore, if you are listening to the podcast, I advise you to watch the video version on our website or YouTube, or request a PDF of the lesson so you can add the visual effect. How you can wield the power of hope. Shalom, my beloved brothers and sisters, and welcome to Day 75 of our exposition of lawlessness. In the most recent podcast, we analyze the role of faith within the hierarchy of holiness and the great power we accumulate when we increase our faith. In today's podcast, we will take a closer look at faith by analyzing its 3 degrees. Along these lines, faith has a fundamental, a focal, and a critical degree. Here is why these are so vital in your war with doubt. Your victory over doubt lies in your ability to unlock the power of faith, which will require you to master its 3 degrees. This is clear to see, for as we have stated before, every degree of holiness is a counterpart to its corresponding degree of lawlessness. To wit, it is the perfect opposite, designed for eradication. And eradication is all but guaranteed, for all the degrees of holiness are superior to their corresponding degrees of lawlessness. Now, that said, what do you suppose the fundamental degree of faith would be? Here's a hint. It is the opposite of despair, i.e., the fundamental degree of doubt. It is also one of these 16 degrees. It could be hope, compliance, honesty, value, consideration, intelligence, moderation, urgency, forbearance, happiness, calm, restoration, lowliness, concern, sympathy, or care. For these are the 16 fundamental degrees of holiness. And the answer is hope, for hope is the opposite of despair. For that reason, when we begin analyzing how faith defeats doubt at the detailed level, we will analyze the battles between hope and despair. Vis-a-vis, I will show you how you can wield the power of hope to put the final nail in the coffin of despair. The main event of your war with doubt. Now, the next question we must entertain is, what is the focal degree of faith? Here's a hint. It is the opposite of distrust, the focal degree of doubt. It could be trust, conformance, righteousness, reverence, understanding, judgment, constraint, perseverance, long-suffering, contentment, quietness, reconciliation, humility, compassion, grace, or affection? For these are the 16 focal degrees of holiness. And the answer is trust. Trust is the focal degree of faith and the opposite of distrust. Now, as the focal degree of faith, trust is the most similar to faith, which is why it is the focus. Vis-a-vis, the focus of faith is your ability and willingness to trust in the Most High Elohim in every situation and under any circumstances. This sounds straightforward because it is. Notwithstanding, as straightforward as the conceptual model of trust is to understand, it is even more difficult to implement. Here is why. Our trust must go through a proving grounds. These are situations defined by various pressures and distress. Along these lines, it is not hard to trust Yahuwah in a good day when everything is going your way. The question of the hour is, can you maintain your trust in Yahuwah in an evil day? And will you keep up the fight in your darkest hour, come what may? No doubt, these are powerful questions to ponder, and I advise you to consider them. They will only prepare you when we begin analyzing the battles between trust and distrust. And I will tell you this in advance. This is the main event of your war with doubt. And thus, unlocking the power of trust is not an option. If you are to obtain the seal of Elohim, one of your first major victories will be established upon your ability to maintain your trust in the Most High Elohim. Making the decision to rely. Now, the final question I would like to ask in this lesson is, what is the critical degree of faith? Here's a hint. It is the opposite of self-reliance, i.e., the critical degree of doubt. It could be reliance, transformation, purification, worship, acceptance, execution, commitment, determination, motivation, persuasion, surrender, communion, service, healing, forgiveness, and devotion. And the answer is reliance, for reliance is the opposite of self-reliance. Now, as the critical degree of faith, reliance is the key to unlocking the full effect of faith in our lives. To wit, apart from reliance, we cannot deal doubt the death blow required for us to reign over this leading degree of lawlessness. Along these lines, reliance is the final mile we travel in our attainment of faith. This transpires as we demonstrate hope and trust in the Father's will, but we have yet to see the manifestation of the promise. Here we will find ourselves at the most common crossroads in the life of every believer, vis-a-vis the crossroads where we must decide if we will wait on the Father to bring his vision to pass, or if we will become impatient and go another way. You may be at this crossroad today. And if that is the case, there is one degree of holiness which I advise you to lean on and strong. And that one degree, my friend, is reliance, the critical degree to unlocking the power of faith in full. This declaration is the foundation of a powerful inflection point I have been led to submit to you as I close out this lesson. And this is one I would advise you to bookmark and never forget. The final step you take before receiving any promise given to you by Elohim is a step of reliance. For we are not only blessed because of our reliance, but we are also blessed for making the decision to rely. Now, here is the final word. The greatest men, I cannot lie, are those who hope, trust, and rely. That is to say, the greatest among us are those who live by faith and those who are willing to die for their faith. For look, listen, it has been written, without faith, it is impossible to please Elohim. And this is the victory that has overcome the world, even our faith. For the end of your faith is the salvation of your soul. Brothers and sisters, this is only a minor fraction of what the word of truth has to say about faith. Trust me, there is so much more. And we will cover many of these truths in the upcoming weeks as we work to eliminate all doubts and free our minds from this spiritual disease and forever keep them out. Now, here is today's assignment. Meditate on all the lessons you have heard this week and ask the Father to give you clarity on anything you are struggling to receive. And if you are led, please feel free to reach out to me. You can fill out a form on our website and let us know what questions you have. And remember, the only question that can truly hurt you is the one you fail to ask. Last but not least, enjoy the upcoming Shabbat and the weekend, and be ready to get back at it next week as we continue to make our calling and election sure in pursuit of the precious and priceless seal of Elohim. Now, here is what's next. We completed today's podcast, End Times 338, an Intro to Faith, Part 3. And the next podcast is entitled End Times 340, an Intro to Hope. I will post this podcast on Monday, September 16th, 2024. Until then, my friends, continue to be led by the Spirit of Elohim, continue to watch, continue to pray, continue in fasting, and most of all, continue to be focused, for the end is coming. The end is near.